that this will not happen if she can help it.
My Lords, rhetorically there's a lot to commend in this whopping piece of levelling up legislation. But I stress rhetorically. For example, the bill claims that it will increase living standards and pay in every area of the UK. Well, hurrah to that. But I think a better guarantor of that outcome might be to join a trade union or get involved in grassroots struggles, as alluded to by Baroness Anderson of Stoke-on-Trent in her punchily excellent maiden speech. Certainly that would be a more likely bet to improve standards of living than relying on 12 missions, the details and targets of which are left up to ministers to make up or tear up at whim. A case in point, even before we got the bill to scrutinise, the national housing targets were shredded. So it was apt when the Shadow Secretary of State, Lisa Nandy, concluded at the third reading in the other place, and I quote, "We started by saying that there was a levelling up bill with no levelling up in it. It was just a housing bill. Then the government stripped out the housing, and now we're just left with a bill." But for me, if only it were just a housing bill. We have a severe crisis of housing supply and affordability, as others have explained. People can't afford to buy or pay extortionate rents. So tackling housing shortages should be at the heart of levelling up. Yet that house-building heart has been ripped out of the legislation. Of course, quantity isn't the only metric. The bill's point that development should be accompanied by infrastructure is important. And also Michael Gove's enthusiasm for quality and beauty is admirable, although I'm less keen on the ugly title Office for Place for the body in charge of architectural aesthetics. But in the end, it was spineless of the government to allow the bill to be weakened by backbench Tory NIMBYs. Disingenuously, this has been wrapped up in the faux democratic language of empowering residents in planning decisions with street votes, etc. I fear this is government washing their hands of responsibility for less houses being built and then pointing the finger and blaming the locals. This abdication of responsibility is one reason why I have qualms about one of the key missions, that is rolling out the devolution process to all areas of England. Other noble lords have raised problems of over-centralisation. But conversely, when Westminster seems to give power away, we should also worry. This seems based on a superficial, even a damage limitation attempt at satisfying the democratic 2016 slogan, "Take back control." It's been mirrored in Keir Starmer's recent promise to disperse power away from Whitehall with his proposed Take Back Control bill. Now, historically, I've been a fan of power to the people. But does delegating powers to super-devolved regional bodies, localist quangos and more mayors with their attendant layers of publicly funded bureaucracy, does all that devolution paraphernalia really give more power to northern voters? One concern is that outsourcing decisions away from parliamentary accountability can fragment the sovereign nation state. The dangers of parallel governance is well illustrated by the present constitutional challenge thrown up by the Scottish Government's Gender Self-ID Act, impacting on UK-wide equality laws. And as an aside, well done to the Government on that one for responding with courage and invoking Section 35. But the key point to note is locating political power geographically closer to voters doesn't guarantee a better deal for local citizens. Take the issue of transport. Michael Gove wants to enhance mayors' powers to increase transport connectivity. Yet here in London, the mayor is making connectivity harder and more expensive by expanding the ultra-low emissions zone, despite 60% of Londoners opposing him. According to TfL's own figures, the majority of non-compliant car owners are from lower socio-economic groups. How does a ULEZ stealth tax on van drivers, care workers, NHS staff from outer London who need their cars for work equate to levelling up? And meanwhile, low-traffic neighbourhood schemes are local but top-down policies to force residents to walk and cycle more and use their cars less, against their wishes, local opposition ignored. Then there's Oxford's Labour, Lib Dem and Green councils leading the pack with its fashionable anti-driving initiative of dividing cities into local zones and restricting car journeys via permits, penalties and surveillance. To note, this 15-minute city idea emanates from a network of 100 international mayors collaborating on ruses to deliver their climate environmental pledges. No mind if those hinder economic growth or industrialisation or local mums driving the kids to school. So a devolved regional form of what is actually global governance that bypasses local representation is not the solution. Whatever this bill offers, the promise of regeneration and levelling up via devolution is rather dodgy and evasive, and I think it lets down, even betrays, red wall hopes for more control.
My Lords, I have